Okay, thank you. So yeah, my name is Jess. I am a final year PhD student with Heriot-Watt University, hopefully finishing at the end of this year, depending on how quickly I can write the next 40,000 words. And I'm going to talk to you today about some of the research that I've done over the past couple of years, looking at the relationship between older people and their local historic environment, and then also how historic places can support people whilst they're aging. So I'm going to start off by providing a little bit of context, the background and the methods, and then I'm going to explain some of the results and some of the conclusions that I've made so far. So place plays a really significant role in well-being. And lots of place-based research acknowledges that if people feel happy and they feel safe and they feel like they belong in their local area, that improves their experiences of well-being as well. And within this, historic places are really important for communities. So they represent civic pride, they represent communal identity, they represent, continuity, where as a society we have been and what we've achieved, and they can positively influence the sense of place and the sense of belonging that local people experience. However, research demonstrates that people don't really value historic places for any inherent historicness. But actually they value historic places for really deeply personal reasons relating to their heritage and their memory and their sense of place. And that is what I explored in some considerable depth. So I looked at heritage and memory and sense of place and more personal dimensions of place attachment, because these are all really deeply personal. They relate to identity, they relate to belonging, and they relate to how people view their local places. In order to have historic places that people can connect with and can suit the needs of local communities, it's essential for us, the managers of the historic environment, to understand how local people value and use such places. So I looked at all of that, and then I looked at how historic places can contribute to well-being in older people. And that's what I'm going to focus on mainly. So this research was focused on people still living in the community rather than those who were in residential care or had dementia or Alzheimer's or anything. They required a different level of consideration. But as people grow, often they are met with age-related constraints. So, a decline in physical mobility. This means they spend less time traveling and more time in the local area. So local places, they heighten in importance as you grow older. And aging in place, it refers to the ability to remain in your local area with some level of independence without going into residential care. Now, added to this is the idea of aging in the right place, which encompasses various dimensions of health and well-being, including housing and transport and social participation and the opportunities to fulfill meaningful roles into older age. Now, aging in the right place also encompasses social and educational needs. For example, UNESCO has a big ongoing lifelong learning promotion, which encourages people across the life course to continue non-formal and formal methods of education. Basically, I contend that the historic environment can play a significant role in supporting people to meet some of these needs, to support people to age in the right place, therefore improving the overall well-being in older adults. And then I'm going to talk about some of the methods and the results that I used as well. So the main methodology that I used for this study was Photovoice, which is where the participants took their own photographs. I conducted this research in Nottinghamshire, so in 3 different areas. Each location had 2 separate workshops, so there was sort of an introduction and an explanation of the task, and then they went away and took their photographs, and I did provide them prompts for that, so some questions, other historic places where you feel safe, where you feel like you belong, where you have positive memories, where, perhaps you've been with friends and family, and then there was a separate group meeting after that, which was kind of like a very informal, semi-structured interview where I recorded everything that everybody said as well. There were 17 participants in total, aged 56 to 86, and somewhere between 200 and 300 photographs. I can't recall the exact number, but quite a lot of photographs. And then I also supplemented this data by having some semi-structured interviews with professionals who work in the heritage or the ageing sector, including both Linda and Desi, which is actually why I'm here today. But yeah, I did that as well. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specific wellbeing benefits that the Photovoice project and the interviews revealed. So I've split them into two categories, into personal benefits and communal benefits. And I'm going to start off by talking about the personal benefits. So, there we go. One of the biggest things about historic places is that they very often represent a safe place to be, a safe space to spend time in. So older people who perhaps left the workforce, they have more time to fill. And it can be a struggle to find places to go to fill this time meaningfully. But to avoid becoming isolated or simply remaining in the home without social connections, you have to sort of get out and about. And historic sites, they're generally very welcoming, they're friendly, they have clean and reliable facilities, they've got cafes, they've got toilets, so that, they're safe places to go, but they're also spaces where you can go and just be. So you're much less likely to be questioned or looked at strangely if you're sitting on a bench in a museum for a prolonged period of time or in an archaeological site. You can even strike up conversations with strangers and it's viewed as something that's more normal, more acceptable. And it brings people into a social environment where you can be put in contact with others and possibly others who have, very similar interests to you as well. And the following quotes, they are an example of this and of how historic places can facilitate safe spaces for older people. So the first one, it gets people in a social environment, but they also just represent the ability to dwell. And I'll give you 30 seconds to just read that. Okay, I think that's probably enough time. The second key personal benefit for older people engaging with the historic environment and with heritage activities is that it provides meaningful ways to spend time and the opportunity to engage in enriching activities. So one of the main ones is volunteer opportunities, and places where you can gain new skills and knowledge. So you can visit heritage sites alone, you can visit heritage sites with friends, you can take part in organised groups or activities, but volunteering is a big thing that older adults do as a means of filling their time. So it's a way of keeping mentally and physically active, learning new skills, participating in enriching activities, and it really closely aligns with UNESCO's lifelong learning as well. And then it's also a way of giving back to society and sort of sharing your own personal memories and lived experiences with the younger generation too. And then the third key benefit, or personal benefit I should say, is that it can make people feel like they're part of something bigger, so part of the wider community, part of sort of time. It gives you a sense of continuity, and it gives people captivating and immersive experiences. And research does support the idea that this is really, really beneficial for mental health. So it can sort of remove people from the boredoms or the trivialities of everyday life, the struggles, the stresses of which there are quite a lot of at the moment. It can be a distraction from that. And research on awe as well has proved that awe is really, really beneficial for people's mental state. And viewing yourself as a small cog in a large machine, again, it really positively influences mental well-being. And I have a couple more quotes here. The first one was from a couple who took part in the Photovoice project. They went to a historic minster in Nottinghamshire, where the wife, her family had been there in the 17th century, and they said they found it really, really moving, the sense of continuity. And then the second quote is just, these places, historic places, they had a bit more beauty in our lives, a bit of something out of the ordinary. Okay, let's get that one now. And then on to communal benefits. So one of the most important and the most unique benefits of interaction with historic places is the opportunity it provides to form and then reinforce communal bonds. So it really does boost community cohesion because they enable people to come together often with a common interest or a common purpose or a shared goal, and spend time together and strengthen those communal ties. Now, this can be through, individual visits and meeting other members of the community. It can be through visiting with friends and family. It can be through participating in organised programmes, skills, arts and crafts, knit and natters, things like that, object handling, or it can be through participating in volunteer work. But the historic environment or the heritage activity essentially works to bring people together, but it's the meaningful community engagement that's a really important end result of that. Now, the second thing, and this links quite closely actually, is through bringing community members into heritage sites, you can really help challenge old-fashioned traditions and the sort of antiquated class divides and the sense of, I didn't learn about history in school, I don't know much about this, I don't belong in a place like this. And through encouraging people, specifically older adults as well, who may, have sort of lower confidence, you can transform sentiments like that into, I can go there now. I can now see that my local heritage site, museum, castle is for me as well. And that was something that really highlighted itself in the research, that through actively encouraging locals to come in and to take ownership over their local environment, you create a larger sense of confidence, and people feel confident getting out and about and going into places that previously wouldn't have felt accessible for them. I've kind of covered the next part already, ownership over the local environment, through encouraging locals to visit their local historic places, sharing local heritage with them and making them feel welcome. That encourages a sense of ownership. Now, ownership's really, really important when you're thinking about the sustainability of heritage sites, because it encourages stewardship, where people feel like they want to protect and they want to conserve their historic places. And that goes for the physical building as well, but also for cultural knowledge and cultural heritage. If older people are encouraged to get out and about, they share their cultural memories and knowledge and lived experiences, and they pass that down to younger generations, and they can engage in intergenerational bonding as well. And then this one was my favourite quote across the whole project, actually. This couple said, "We've got a sense of community, and we think you should put more into your community than you get out of it, because heritage isn't just bricks and mortar, is it? Heritage has to be carried on. Younger people have to take things forward into the future." And alongside that, they submitted a photograph of some villagers repainting their local railings. So when we're talking about, historic places, the historic environment, it doesn't just have to be museums and castles. It can be high streets and villages and towns as well, and anything that local people identify with and get their sense of belonging from. So therefore, acknowledging all of those personal and communal benefits, I suggest that there are two key ways that the historic environment and engagement with heritage activities can support people to age in place, but more importantly, age in the right place within local communities that meet older people's needs and support their overall well-being. So firstly, historic places can support aging by facilitating and supporting community engagement, enabling older adults to meet like-minded others. This can lead to friendships, this can lead to more informal networks of support within the environment, and it can encourage people to get out and about, spend more time in the environment whilst they are pursuing and encouraging these new relationships and this new knowledge and these new skills. And this can be really beneficial for both mental and physical well-being. And then secondly, through providing opportunity for educational and enriching activities and allowing people to maintain meaningful roles into older age. Now, volunteering is a really big part of this, learning new skills, participating in enriching activities, sharing knowledge with younger generations, and this further contributes to mental and physical well-being, and it helps older people keep active as well. So therefore, I must be running out of time now. Heritage and historic places therefore contribute to an overall band of support that enables people to age in place, but more importantly, to enjoy the area they live in, to maintain connection to society, to maintain mental and physical fitness, to access informal support, and to age in the right place. But when thinking about, as a heritage site, how do we go about engaging in this? We've seen a lot of it already today, but it must come from the site itself. Historic places have the responsibility of opening their doors and making themselves more welcoming to locals who might not feel like they belong in that spot to begin with. And they can do this through running more activities, encouraging older people to come and visit, engaging with personal lived memories and heritage rather than just the time period their site or their activity comes from, through developing partnerships with the local community groups, having more of a presence in the community, through using social media, and even through hiring people such as community engagement coordinators. And I'm quite biased on that because I am a community engagement coordinator, and running things like social prescribing projects as well, or even something as small as offering discounted cups of teas for retired people or for people over the age of 60. Yeah, thank you.